Zayan. Thanks. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله رب يسر ولا تعسر وتم بالخير بك نستعين يا فتاح رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي ما شاء الله. So our discussion inshallah for today will be on a word that comes in quite a few places in the Quran. This word is called Ṭayyib. It's termed as Ṭayyib, Ta, Ya, Ba. And before we get into the meaning of this, I wanted to talk about one hadith where the Prophet ﷺ, he stated that إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَتَبَ الْإِحْسَانَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed ihsan, excellence, for everything. Everything that we do, everything that we eat, everything that we display, ihsan is showed in it. And the hadith, you would think, okay, what type of examples is the Prophet ﷺ going to give about when he talks about ihsan? So he says, فَإِذَا قَتَلْتُمْ فَأَحْسِنُوا الْقِتْلِ, that when you kill, then you make it beautiful, you do it in an excellent manner. وَإِذَا ذَبَحْتُمْ فَأَحْسِنُوا الذِّبْحِ, and when you slaughter, sacrifice an animal, then you do that in an excellent and a beautiful manner as well. وَلْيُحِدَّ أَحَدَكُمْ شَفْرَتَهُ وَلْيُرِحْ ذَبِيحَتَهُ, that how do you do that? If you're talking about an animal, then you make sure the blade is sharp, and you make the animal comfortable, whether it's saying the Bismillah Allahu Akbar, whether it's saying any other du'as, whether it's giving it water, whether it's facing it to the Qibla. There's an interesting video I was just watching yesterday. It's an older video where there's a convert brother who is at the farm, and he's showing how humane Islamic slaughter is. And I'm not going to be talking about just meat the entire time, right? We already had enough talks. Probably you guys probably already heard enough talks about what halal is. I'm not going to talk about that too much. We'll take it a step further, inshallah. So, but in that video, it's amazing, subhanAllah. I mean, he brings out the animal, and whether he does it or his colleagues do it, whoever the case may be, they bring out the animal. Obviously, the animal's a little bit scared when it comes out, but then before he puts the animal on the ground, he starts reciting the dua. He starts reciting Bismillah Allahu Akbar. He starts reciting Bismillah la yadurru ma'asmi shay'un fil ardi wala fis sama. He starts reciting the dua and he puts it down. And within like 3 seconds, the animal just puts its next back. Nothing. Like for example, when we go to the slaughterhouse, we got like one person holding those front 2 legs, and the other person holding the front 2 legs, and the other one's holding the head down, and then finally the person's all scared trying to do the sacrifice. Literally, he put the animal down, and he's holding it with one finger. Like he's putting the his hand on the animal's neck. He puts the animal's neck straight, holding it down with one finger. Right? That's what the power of dua. That's the power of this kalam that the Prophet ﷺ has taught us. And it just laid there. Sometimes it just laid there for like 1 minute, 2 minutes, without even touching it. He just laid there, just laying down with his head, right? Just head, his back, waiting, right? Waiting to be sacrificed, just waiting. And that's responding to the call, right? Just like how Ibrahim alayhi salam's son responded to the call. So when we show ihsan to everything, then it will respond with ihsan as well. If we don't show ihsan to the animal, we like, do DDT, whatever, these wrestling moves, we take it down, and then you expect it to, like, all right, when is it going to put his head? It's not going to. It's not going to. We don't show ihsan to the animal. Don't think it's going to respond with ihsan. It's very simple. Very simple. So it's a beautiful concept that the Prophet ﷺ has taught us. Inna Allah kataba al-ihsana fi kulli shay. That you show ihsan to everything. Inna Allah ya'muru. Every single khutbah, what do we hear? Inna Allah ya'muru bil adli wal ihsan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded for adl, justice, and showing excellence. Okay. Now, I don't want to go too, off track for right off the bat, but let's go going, inshallah. So there, we need to lay down the foundations first. Okay. We can't just start talking about, what tayyib is, and mashallah, just eat tayyib and go home, mashallah, and we're done with that. How is that going to have a holistic approach to your overall health? We need to look at everything. Okay. And then we'll hone in, inshallah, on tayyib. Number one is, are those things that I'd like to call primary foods. Those primary foods are those things that affect our health that do not come on the plate. Okay. Whether it's relationships, whether it's physical activity, whether it's your career. And then most important, obviously, of all, is your spirituality, your Islam. All of these things impact our health. They impact our digestion. They impact how we respond. How do we show ihsan to ourselves? How do we show ihsan to other makhluk? This is what nourishment do we receive off the plate. That's what primary food is referring to. What type of nourishment do we receive off the plate? And these are just some examples, right, on the circle. As Muslims, we always, we'll have individuals who go gung-ho, for example, like, you have to eat, you have to eat 2 meals a day, or, only this many calories, and that's it. And they just count every single thing. And that's all and their health is terrible. Their akhlaq is terrible, right? Their adab is terrible. What's going on? Something's up. Because just eating right is not enough. Just, as you know, just working out is not enough. We have to look at the health as a whole picture. Okay, so it's our relationships with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's our relationship with other makhluk. It's our careers. Are we going to, Sunday night every single time? I have to wake up from school for work on Monday. Every single day, same thing, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. What type of energy is that bringing? Is it bringing any type of positive vibe? Now, do we have any physical movement, right? Since COVID, is very difficult. People were talking about how great it is working from home. Then a few months in, they're talking about how great it was not, right? Because you're just not getting the main movement they were getting was from going from their bedroom office to the kitchen to grab something to eat and then going back. Whatever calories you burned, you probably gained it back right by eating at the desk. Right? So there was much movement going on. This is primary food. Now, what we'll be talking about more today is, inshallah, is the secondary food, the nourishment that you receive actually on the plate. Okay. And this is key. Both primary food is important, just like secondary food is important. Okay, they both need to mesh organically. Okay, and when we're talking about secondary food, years ago, maybe your parents or grandparents or great grandparents, they didn't have soil and they didn't have the same synthetic sprays and herbicides and pesticides that we have today. So everything was organic. That term didn't exist before the 1940s, 30s, 20s, something around there. It didn't exist because it didn't need to exist. Everything was already pure. Everything was already wholesome. Everything was already tayyib. That's why if you look at many of the classical tafasir, when you look at the word tayyib, what does it say? A lot of the time it talks about what type of wealth did you use to buy that food? Was the wealth pure? So referring to the wealth. Why? Because he didn't need to talk about the food. The food was already good. Food was already pure. Mafhum? Right? The food there was no need for it. Why are they going to talk about something that's already there? But then as we went farther and farther away from the Sunnah, whether it's in terms of farming, whether it's in terms of agriculture, permaculture, whatever the case may be, now we needed to discuss it as a society. And these were put into place. So the aspect of secondary food is what type of nourishment do we really receive from our food? Is it just emotional nourishment? Is it biological nourishment? We'll talk about that inshallah. Okay. So the answer is already there, huh? See, that's the thing, huh? The slide is, it wasn't working properly for some reason. So the question is that what is the number one cause for death and disability in the US of A? That's our diet. So you're talking about secondary food, that's it. That's it. Okay. That's not from me. You can go ahead and you can look at the research that's there. No. So you can see from the research, there's a 2010 global burden of disease study that was funded by the Gates Foundation. I'm not talking about them, but determining that the leading cause for death and disability was the American diet. That was the leading cause for death and disability, and that's shocking. Well, not really, but you would think we make, what we make. We're one of the richest countries, if not the richest country, which no really shortages of food. No real shortages of food. X amount of dollars is spent on healthcare. You would think, yes, we extended life 10 years, 20 years, but what's that quality of life that you extended? No. So we pay attention to these things, right? Especially as Muslims. What is our response to when we read data like this? No. Yes, it seems, I don't mean to be all down and depressing, just telling you, oh, you're always sick, you're overweight, or you're this and that. There's a lot of potential here. A lot of potential. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us so much qudrah and power over our health and longevity. No. Eating healthy, as we talk about, when I'm saying eating, I'm talking about both primary food and secondary food. Eating healthy and having wholesome secondary foods has the potential to not only prevent diseases, but reverse diseases that individuals have. And if you go to holistic practitioners, you will not only feel it, but witness it with other patients as well. I've seen it firsthand. Whether it's heart disease, whether it's type 2 diabetes, whether it's high blood pressure. The list goes on the diseases that not only are they able to manage, but reverse, in which they'll say, oh, it's irreversible. We don't have any cure for it. And I don't like to take shots at anybody. You ask the doctors themselves, the medical students themselves who studied 6, 7, 8 years, that how much time was spent on nutrition. Some of them told me 0. The 6, 7, 8 years that they studied, they told me they had 0 hours of modules on nutrition. Others have said like 2 hours, 3 hours out of their 7, 8 years, which is basically nothing as well. This is not coming from me, this is coming from them. So they don't have the tools. A lot of the times, how are they going to provide the tools? So we're not in necessarily a society that is there for our longevity. And we clearly cannot just do what everybody else is doing. I'm just going to follow everybody else, or else we'll just end up with like another statistic. I don't think that's what you want to be. There is a reason why the Prophet ﷺ said that Inna Allah tayyibun la yaqbalu illa tayyiban. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is tayyib, and He accepts only that which is tayyib, that which is pure, that which is wholesome. وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ أَمَرَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ بِمَا أَمَرَ بِهِ الْمُرْسَلِينَ. And He has ordered the believers just as the same thing what He has ordered the prophets. Now, the same thing He has ordered the prophets, He has ordered the believers, which is يَا أَيُّهَا الرُّسُلُ كُلُوا مِنَ الطَّيِّبَاتِ. Same word. كُلُوا مِنَ الطَّيِّبَاتِ. That, O prophets, O messengers, that you eat from those things that are tayyib. You think about tayyib during their time, what would it include? And tayyib during our time, what it is going to include? كُلُوا مِنَ الطَّيِّبَاتِ وَاعْمَلُوا صَالِحًا. How in the world, like how many times have we seen individuals like say, oh, it's very difficult for me, brother, to wake up for Fajr. It's very difficult for me to, go to the masjid. It's very difficult for me to do this and that. Well, that's because you're getting no nourishment from your food. You're getting zero nourishment, zero. You might just get like a sugar spike, 10, 20 minutes, and that's it. Boom, you're back to normal. You're back to just crashing. Zero benefit from the food. How are you gonna apply the second part, wa'malu salihah, if you're not getting any tayyib into your body? There's no tayyib in the body. Don't expect any tayyib amal to come out. You might be able to, you're gonna strive and struggle. Yes, you wanna try your best. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told this to the prophets, told this to the believers as well. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kulu min tayyibati ma razaqnakum. That, O believers, that you eat from the tayyib that we have provided you. Now, and then he continued out with the hadith that ثم ذكر الرجل يطيل السفر أشعث أغبر يمد يديه إلى السماء. This man, his hair was disheveled. Long travel. He had dust in his hair. And he is raising his hands to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ya Rabb, Ya Rabb, wa mat'amuhu haram, wa mashrabuhu haram, wa malbasuhu haram. Everything is haram. His clothing is haram. His drink is haram. His food is haram. Wa ghudhiya bil haram. He's nourished with haram. فَأَنَّا يُسْتَجَابُ لَهُ. How is his dua going to be accepted? No. How? Yes, first and foremost, as we were talking about, health as a whole, we need to look at it in a holistic manner. We don't just hone in on one food. That's not how it works. Yes, we look, how is our income? Is our income halal? Okay, mashallah. With that halal income, what type of food am I buying? Okay, I'm buying nice produce. I'm buying organic produce. I'm buying this. Mashallah. Now we have step 1 done, step 2 done. Okay, we're making sure that it's halal. Now what? Many times people ask me, scholars just focus on halal, halal, halal. They don't care about tayyib. Oh, bhai, it's a process. It's a process. Years ago, when you weren't even born, probably, there was nothing halal. It was a process. They built, halal industries. Whether you go to New York, whether you go to Texas, whether you go anywhere, you'll see halal labels and halal certifications coming out. That's important. That's step number 1. But now, what's next? As Muslims, we should always be thinking, what's next? It's not like, oh, alhamdulillah, so everything's halal. Now I'm just gonna just relax and sit back and enjoy my Netflix. That's it, huh? No, what's next? This is next. You continue to look at the label. Just like how you were checking if it was halal, now you check if it's tayyib. Is it pure? Is it wholesome? That's what we need to check now. You take it a step further. And there are different apps that can help you, especially if you're not experienced. There's one, I believe it's called like EWG, Environmental Working Group. You can download it and you just literally just do a bar scan, like just like how you have those halal apps. You can scan it and it tells you those haram ingredients. I remember it was a interesting discussion I was having on, there's an ulama WhatsApp group talking about whether some of these dyes are halal or not, and how one of those food colorings, it was from some like insect. It was like, I think it was a red one. I think it was red 40. I don't remember off the top of my head. I might be missing it. But yes, we have those discussions. Is it halal? But is it? Even if it is halal, Is that something you would want to eat? Is that something that you would want to consume? Is that something you want your kids to consume? The insides of some insect? Really? Just for some color? I know you Rovza lovers, right? You just check out the Rovza ingredients too. How do you think it becomes red? You can check it out. Don't blame me for it later on if you can't have it for iftar time. I mean, you just fasted like 17 hours and then you breaking it with that. That shouldn't even be halal for you. Right? I'm just kidding. You do what you need to do, but you're going to make the decision at the end of the day. It's your body that's going to respond in a negative or positive manner. It's not affecting anybody else. That's affecting you. It's going to affect your family then. No, so we can't be so selfish with our decisions that I'm just doing it just for some temporary pleasures. Because that's going to impact your mind. That what you eat, it impacts your mind. It impacts your energy. It impacts your overall health. What's more important? Honestly, what's more important than having beautiful health? What's more? Waking up in the morning with some energy, no aches in the body, no allergies, no asthma. I mean, that's a beautiful feeling, right? That's a beautiful feeling to have. Now, the young folks might be like, all right, that's normal for me. Yeah. It might not be normal 10, 20 years down the line. Ask your parents, ask your grandparents. It might not be normal. It might not be normal for you either. So these are things that we try to pay attention to. Okay. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He uses the term halal and tayyib next to each other in 4 places. These are the 4 places. Now, Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah Ma'idah, Surah Anfal, Surah Nahl. Okay. So we know when we look at this that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot be just referring from tayyib. And if you look at the tafasir, sometimes the word tayyib, I know. When you look at it, it'll be referring to that food that is halal. Okay, fine, I understand that. But there has to be some difference if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning it in one spot. Okay, He says halal one place and then tayyib in another place. Okay, halal using one word and tayyib, you can't be saying, oh, they're both the same thing. Both halal and tayyib are the exact same thing. It just means that as long as it's slaughtered properly, as long as it doesn't have any alcohol in it, as long as it's permissible to eat, okay, you can go ahead and enjoy it. No, that's not the case. That's not the case. We all know what halal is by definition. There are 3 main conditions. For example, if we're talking about meat, there are 3 main conditions. You have making sure that at least 3 out of the 4 veins, right? You have the esophagus, you have the trachea, you have the jugular veins. Just 3 out of the 4 of them are severed, majority, if not all. Number 2, that we have the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taken. And then number 3, that the slaughter be Muslim. Or if it's Ahlul Kitab, then they say the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if they're really Ahlul Kitab. So these are the 3 main conditions for it to be halal. No. But what's next, as we talked about? Now, what's next? You have the classical tafsirs talking about the pureness of the wealth. We talked about that. They didn't need to talk about organic. They didn't need to talk about things that were pure and wholesome. That was not needed because that was just the environment that they were living in. They didn't have pesticides and herbicides sprayed into every single crop that was grown to kill the weeds and then to kill us later on. So this term tayyib came, and you had organic farming come into play as well. So that's how I like to, explain the word tayyib. I call it conscious consumption, right? Conscious consumption. Okay. Now, what does that even mean? What does that even mean? So let's talk about that now. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He states in Surah Al-Baqarah, and this isn't just one verse, right? Many verses Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about this. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كلوا من طيبات ما رزقناكم واشكروا لله إن كنتم إياه تعبدون. That, O believers, that want you to eat from those things that are pure we have provided, and be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if you truly worship Him alone. And I tell this to the students every single time. whenever they ask a question or whenever they're researching, you don't just look at one ayah or one hadith and just make your judgment. MashaAllah, we have muftis here. The amount of research that they do to answer one question, they're not going to just boom. I found one answer. Okay, that's it. I'm just going to give my fatwa real quick. All right, I'm done with it. No, they'll look at that one word. Okay, let's look at it in all of its derivatives. Okay, oh, this is what it means in the Arabic language. This is what it means in this context. This is what it means in this era. These are all the ayahs that talk about this. These are all the hadith that are related to it. And after, what are the fuqaha say? Okay, now we'll give that judgment. Now I'll give the ruling. Takes time, takes hours. So when we look at all of the ayahs and all of the hadith that talk about tayyib and tayyibat and nutrition in the Quran and the Sunnah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they emphasize the aspect of tayyib. Tayyib meaning pure, small quantity, high quality, nutrient dense foods. Now, that's what tayyib is referring to. You have high quality, nutrient dense foods. And automatically, when you have high quality, the quantity is automatically going to decrease. How many times people ask me, I have a problem with just like overeating. Well, what are you eating? What are you eating? That's going to play a huge role. I don't have the time to go into the history of some of these food industries. Many of them came from the tobacco industry as well. So they saw some money was to be made in the food industry, so changed their name, changed their logo, and came into the food industry as well. And they would hire scientists to see what is the exact amount of sugar, what is the exact amount of salt and fats that we need to put into this snack or to this food item, just so we can have those kids specifically, to come back for more and more and more. No. MashaAllah, like we talk about, you have Tony, there was his name, Tony the Tiger? I'm forgetting, the one on Frosted Flakes. He's not happy for you eating Frosted Flakes. He's giving you sugar upon sugar, right? He's happy because he's making hundreds and thousands of dollars off your kids. Because they'll make you go crazy if you don't buy them Frosted Flakes, right? Or if you don't buy them whatever. The students know. I don't want to go on side tangents, but I remember there was a cereal that I bought once a while ago, and I don't know if it was Cinnamon Toast Crunch or not. I can't remember what it was. A few years ago. You look at the ingredients. It said cinnamon toast. It didn't have any cinnamon in it, right? It had everything else but besides cinnamon, right? It had everything else besides what they said that they were going to put in. So they can do what they need to do. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states kulu akl, right? Coming from akala yakulu, to eat. And we all love to eat, mashallah. But what does he mean? Well, if he just says kulu, even if he says kulu, that would have been enough. That would have been enough, because the word, what he meant by kulu are those things that are beneficial from all sides. Intifa min jami'ul wujuh, that it's beneficial from every facet. Not it'll give you energy, but then it'll make you crash 20 minutes later. It'll make you feel good for 1 hour, but then tomorrow you'll feel like garbage. Like you go to a restaurant, for example, it tastes amazing. 2 hours later, I can't even. My stomach hurts. I'm feeling what I'm not going to say restaurants' names or anything, but I'm feeling what I ate 2-3 days ago. I'm feeling the response from that burger or from that pizza or whatever the case may be. I'm feeling the effect of it now. No, I'm not going to sit, maybe you sit here and like, all right, go home, just eat broccolis, for lunch, breakfast, lunch, dinner. No, you enjoy, mashallah, you enjoy your food. Okay. It has to be tasty at the same time. Okay. But it can still be halal, it can still be tayyib, and it can still be tasty. Right? It doesn't have to taste like paper. It doesn't have to taste like sandpaper. It doesn't have to taste like that. It can still taste good, mashallah. That's on you though. That's on you. How are you going to make it tasty? What are some halal, healthy alternatives to what you're eating? So, Abu Hayyan, he mentions it, and he says, "Kulu, يعني من متلذذ ما رزقناكم." And those things that are tasty, that are halal. Eat those things. Consume those foods that are halal, that are nutrient dense. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Ya ayyuhan nasu kulu mimma fil ardi halalan tayyiba." No. So, these two terms, if we look at it when they come together, the first one, halal, refers to the hukum, right? Yani bayan al-shar'. So it's explaining the hukum of the food. All right, that food is halal. It met their criteria. It was slaughtered by a Muslim. Name was said. Okay, dua was read. Yes, okay, fine. The veins were cut properly. MashaAllah, we know the food is halal. That's good. That's great. Now, what about this second phrase then? Ṭayyib. No, Ṭayyib. It's mentioned that Ṭayyib would be referring to those foods that the soul yearns for. When you have a sound intellect, what type of foods would your intellect yearn for? The body tells us, it signals to us, that our food intake should be foods that bring us spiritual benefit and also nutritional benefit. And we see the Mufassirun talk about this. In Tahrir wa Tanwir, he mentions this, he talks about that food, tayyib food can, by definition, cannot bring spiritual or bodily harm. You cannot call that tayyib. If food does that, then that's not tayyib. And you're not following the ayah. You're not following the sunnah. If by intentionally we're doing this. Yeah, you didn't know, fine. You didn't know 20 years ago, your parents didn't know 15, 20 years ago, okay, fine. Now you know. Now you know for sure that when I eat this, I feel like garbage and I can't wake up for Fajr. I know. When I eat this, I have an allergic reaction. I'm not going to do that. Okay. When I eat this, I have an asthma attack. I'm not going to do that. No. Okay. So Ibn Ashur, he talks about this whole detail in his tafsir. And he talks about that food that is nutritional. It has to be. It's not only is it nutritional in the short term, but also nutritional in the long term. That's what tayyib is. It's in the short term it has benefits, and also in the long term it has benefits. Many of the times the food that we eat, it has short term benefits. No doubt, it gives you some energy. But long term, not so much. Not so much. Okay. And he says that if that food is not tayyib, then he says the opposite of tayyib is either khabith or like wakhim. Okay. Wakhim, something that's unwholesome. It's completely despicable. Now, obviously, every individual's body refers to different foods in different ways. But one thing we know for certain, that if we continuously, day after day, meal after meal, just feed ourselves this junk, I'm not going to call it food, that junk, then how can we possibly think that we're going to have the energy to have good akhlaq, going to have the energy to respond to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's calls, going to have the energy to be a proper slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if we can barely wake up, if we can barely move around? All of this is connected. This is all connected. This connects to the whole aspect of tayyib. So tayyib, refers to in the Quran and the Sunnah, pure, wholesome, excellent, lawful food, non-GMO, organic, whatever you want to call it. Okay. By definition, that those foods that have artificial flavors, natural flavors, they call them natural flavors, right? Natural flavors, GMOs, they're not. By definition, it can't be tayyib. Cannot be tayyib. There's no benefit of those things. You look at, for example, I love everybody a biryani lover, right? Don't worry, we'll still be friends after. Right, biryani, how many times do you eat biryani? And it's like orange. Or it's like red. And then I was like, why is this red and orange? Looks like the new Bears helmet, huh? So what's going on? Why is it? Why is it orange? So he said, it's just food coloring. I was like, oh, does it add any taste to it? No. It just makes it look good. That's it? It makes it look good? That's how you put it? Like, yeah. And Americans, sometimes it's not even just Americans. Like, we just it just needs to look good, and that's it. Or it just needs to taste good, and we don't care how it's going to look inside, how it's going to feel inside. It has no benefit. Then why are you putting it? Why are we going to do that? That all plays a role on our microbiome, from the mouth to our colon. Trillions of these microorganisms that help break down the foods. If we're just completely every single day trashing it, then how in the world are we going to get nutrients from our food? How are we going to get the minerals and the vitamins from our foods if we have nothing left in our gut to break it down? It's not happening. It's not happening. People talk about bloating and all of these things. Yes, this is all because of our gut. It's all there. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about it. There was a doctor who mentioned when he heard this verse that kulu washrabu, we'll talk about it in the next slide, inshallah. Kulu washrabu wa la tusrifu, that eat and drink but not in excess. Innahu la yuhibbul musrifin. He said lam yatruk nabiyyuk shay'an lijalinus. He said your Nabi didn't leave any nutritional principles for Galen. He didn't leave any nutritional principles for Galen when he heard eat and drink but not in excess. No. That's a key principle when we eat. But it's just not going to happen if we're eating khabith and wakhim food. This is not going to happen because of that mind-body connection. I'm not sure if I have a picture yet right here. Oh, we'll come to it, inshallah. The mind-body connection. Okay, this is an important connection that we have. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. Oh. And we're in a society where we just like to blame other things, whether it's my genes, it's my parents, it's my grandparents' fault. I have bad genes. All right, fine. Say you don't have the greatest genes, but there is something called epigenetics, and how you turn on, which genes do you turn on and off. You have the ability to do that. Don't blame your parents or your grandparents about that one. That's on you. And that turns on and off based off of what food that you eat. No. What pesticides and herbicides were sprayed on the foods that you eat. This is all there. This is all there. It is a really interesting study talking about how secondary food, how food can impact not one generation, but 2 generations, but 3 generations. Okay. And they used, I believe, the herbicide was called atrazine. It was one of these famous herbicides or pesticides that they would use, and they gave it to a mouse, and they tested it, and they saw that it went and it lasted 3 generations later. Right, that herbicide lasted in the next generation and the next generation. So 3 generations later, that same herbicide that the great grandparent consumed, it impacted the great grandson as well. That's what food does. Right. If it wasn't important, well, first of all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wouldn't even talk about it. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam wouldn't even talk about it. If it's mentioned in the Quran, it's important. It's not like me. Oh, he's just one of those nutritional people. Just goes crazy on nutrition. It's not me. This is coming from the Quran. This is coming from the Hadith. This is from the Sunnah. No. We can't say that we're practicing Islam if we don't go 100% in. We're all in as Muslims. We believe in every verse and every Hadith. That's part of being Muslim, right? That's part of submitting, whether you like it or not. How much you like those Doritos and those Takis and those what are the Ferrero Rocher, I don't know how you pronounce it, right? Those big, and then Halloween they make big size ones. But however much you like them, right? You got to go against the nafs. And I can take an oath by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you leave it, you won't desire it. You won't desire it then. But you got to leave it, really leave it. It's not like I'm just going to have, don't give me one of those bakwas type answers. I'll have it like once a week. That's not happening. Once a week, you'll have the whole bar, yeah? You're like 2 bars maybe, once a week. What's the point? What's the point of having those? Right? Yes, obviously there's a benefit having it less. I understand that. But then shaitan is shaitan. He's going to get you. Like, yeah, you have it just once a week, or have it every 2 weeks, or have it once a month. No. But shaitan knows who we are, right? We have our own battles with him. No. So this is the ayah that I was talking about. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, وَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا إِنَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُسْرِفِينَ. Enjoy, right? Enjoy your food, enjoy your drink, okay? But not in excess. And so, as we talked about, that's only possible if we have tayyib. If we look at the first verse, the first like 10 verses that we talked about before this, that's only possible if you're having tayyibat. It's not really possible if you're having food that is wakhim or khabith. Prophet ﷺ, Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, time and time again emphasizing the importance of quality over quantity, quality over quantity. And that's only possible by having your whole foods, whether it's fruits, whether it's vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes, right? Things that you know where they came from. If they're trying to, if you're reading an ingredient list and there's a bunch of chemical names, they're trying to hide something from you, right? They're trying to hide something from you. If there's a bunch of long list names that you can't read, why is that there? Well, that's not what you call food, right? It's not what you call food. So what type of environment that we live in, and they're trying to hide what's actually the foods that we're eating. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about these principles. Enjoy your food, enjoy your drink, but not in excess. Okay. Now, this was the picture that I wanted to share, where you see the mind-body connection, and that's through this vagus nerve. Okay, it sends a signal. Right? Our stomach sends a signal when we're eating. It tells our brain that we're full, we're not hungry anymore. All right, we can stop. If that signal is lost, if that signal is closed, if that signal is cut off due to some chemicals that are in the food that we're eating, and then people ask why I don't feel hungry, that's why I keep on eating. Well, that's what they want you to do. They want you to finish that bag of Doritos. They want you to finish that bag of Pringles. They want you to finish that, whatever the case may be, because that's what that food does. It blocks the signal that the stomach sends to the brain with the vagus nerve. It blocks it. It blocks it. That's what it does. So when we talk about eating 1/3, that's not possible if you're eating that food. If you can, mashallah, that's great. I don't know how you do it, because you definitely don't feel full. You probably just take out your anger on something else then. You maybe go punch a punching bag or something, whatever the case may be. But you're not feeling full. And if you don't feel full, if your food is not giving you that nutrition, then it's probably you need to have an outlet somewhere. Okay. So this hadith and other hadith related to it, talking about the 1/3, that's only possible, and I'm repeating it again and again, when you have tayyib food. It's not really possible if you're just having the halal food that is, filled with herbicides and pesticides, or just pumped with hormones. Okay. If you go to the farms, look at the farms. See how many antibiotics they're giving the animals. See how many hormones they're pumping into the animals. It's sold by weight. So yes, they're going to make it fatter and fatter. They're not allowed to graze. They're keeping them in restricted areas, staying usually within their, in the confines of their own restroom. That's how they are. And do you not think that impacts the meat? We believe in this metaphysical aspect. We believe in the aspect of spirituality. Just because somebody looks healthy doesn't mean that they're actually healthy. Just because somebody's skinny doesn't mean that they're healthy. How many times have we seen that? Right? People that are skinny, you call them, they're healthy. No, they're not healthy. Just because they're skinny. There's a lot of other things that need to go in to your health just by, rather than just being skinny. We just, a craze that we have in our society. I just need to be skinny. We don't have that too much time, so we'll continue, inshallah. This is what we were talking about earlier, that emotional nourishment versus biological intelligence. That what does our food, does our food give us actual intelligence, or is our food just a means of emotional nourishment? We're having a tough day at work, a tough day at home, tough day at school, so I'm just going to eat. It makes me feel good. Makes me feel good. Is that it? Is that all how we look at food? Because you can't keep on doing that, or else you're going to have other issues. Right? You can have other issues if you just keep on eating based off of stress. If you just keep on eating based off of schoolwork or tests or exam. We have to have. If we lack, that's why I talked about primary foods in the beginning. That's why we stress the importance of primary foods. You have to take care of your other outlets, not just food. You have your spirituality, most important of all. You have your career, you have your physical activity, you have your relationships with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with other creation. And then hand in hand with that, you have this aspect of tayyib, mashallah. You're setting up yourself for success. You're setting yourself up for success. But if you're just focusing on one aspect, secondary food, okay, I'm just gonna make sure I eat organic, and then I have terrible primary foods, and good luck with that. Good luck with it. It's gonna have some benefit. It obviously it's gonna be beneficial in comparison to just you eat Snickers all day, for sure. But how much, right? How much? And you all can read slides after slides after slides, right? Chronic disease in America. 6 in 10 adults have a chronic disease. 4 in 10 adults in the U.S. So since 1995, the number of Americans suffering with chronic illnesses has doubled. And are we really changing anything? Yes, we're finding things, as Muslims, we're finding out things are halal, mashallah, that's great. But you see fewer than 1 out of 10 adults and children that eat enough fruits and vegetables. It's just not there. I mean, if we don't buy them, how are they going to eat them? Right? Don't think your fruit punch is count as like your vegetables. Right? Don't count as no vegetables, right? Your fruit punch or whatever they call them, Hawaiian punch. That's on us. If we're not used to it, we have to build that environment at the home, at our schools. We make buying garbage so easy. Every place has a vending machine, even masajid, right? It's sick. It's sick. When I see it at masjids, I call them out. How are you you talk about future at every single fundraising dinner, then you serve them that. Right? You serve them Cheetos, you serve them Takis, you serve them that. I'm not talking about their future. Don't give me that, future. If that's what you're serving your kids, if that's what you're serving the youth. No, that's not how it works. I mean, we have over 147 billion every single year that's spent on healthcare for obesity. We still got things to do as Americans, and especially Muslim Americans. Yeah, it's not showing up properly. But basically what I wanted to talk about with this slide is when we're talking about pure foods, what things should come to mind. We should think about local. We should think about organic. We should think about fruits, vegetables, grass-fed meats, free range, healthy fats, whether it's from plants. Impure foods, we would think of artificial ingredients, GMOs, preservatives, hydrogenated oils. These are things that we think of when we're talking about impure. Um, we can go on and on, but I think that should be just summarize it, inshallah, and we'll wrap up here for questions. Okay. It's not working. That's fine. So I'll just summarize real quick. That number one, what we want to do as Muslims, we already started reading labels, years ago. We've been doing that. So continue to do that. But rather than just looking if the ingredient is halal, we change the script. We change the script and we look and see if the ingredients are tayyib. You check, is it something I can read? And if you can't, then check it up. What is it? What actually is this 20-letter chemical name that I'm going to put into my body? Just check one of them. I know there's a list of 30 and you might be overwhelmed. Just check one of them, fine. Just choose any one of them. Just check red 40 or check blue 4 or any of those other Peyton Manning type of colors that you read when you're reading the labels. Right? Just check any of them. Right? That's number one. Number two, when you do that, when you eat tayyib, then number two will be easy by not overeating, because now you're eating quality. If you're not eating quality, then overeating is going to be almost impossible. I can tell you that. It's going to be almost impossible if you're not eating tayyib. Okay, so number two will be is try not wasting food, israf of food by overeating. And then number three is obviously most important of all, is that we follow the sunnahs of the Prophet ﷺ, when we eat, by being grateful, and all of the other sunnahs that before, after, during, not watching TV, not using our phone, communicating with our food. We just one-on-one with our food. We're not looking at anything else. We're not doing anything else. Just like how the Prophet ﷺ, right? What would he do when he was talking to somebody? Right? He would make sure he turned to them completely, giving them that's what you call mindfulness. That same thing would apply to your food as well. You have mindful eating. You're not doing 30 different things or checking 30 different emails. Sorry, you eat for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Just relax. The whole world doesn't revolve around your phone. The whole world doesn't revolve around you. Everything will still be fine after your meal. So take that time and spend it on yourself. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, will reward you abundantly for that. Oh, no, wait. Okay. We can open it up, inshallah, for questions. No.
First, thanks for your presentation. You had a picture of a fat Air Jordan there. What's the story behind that?
I don't know if we can go back to that one. Huh? Air Jordan. Huh?
That's a previous life.
Yeah. No story. I mean, it's just sad, right? Because the kids, they don't really have. We say that they have a choice, but they really don't, right? When we talk about childhood obesity, and we talk about caring for their future, we care about their school, but then we send them lunch food like whatever they call the Lunchables and all those other things that is just completely detrimental to their health. I mean, we're not setting them up for success at all when we're giving those foods. And the same things those are the same type of foods, those khabith type of foods that they'll serve at the schools as well. It's not that much better there. So unless we start at home and we make that environment at home. Let me tell you this, and yes, the environment is not too conducive outside. If you go outside, if you go to the markets, if you go to restaurants, it might not be conducive to your healthy eating. But we have to start somewhere. We have to start somewhere. Otherwise, I have seen with my own patients where you have diseases that adults had before, Now the kids have them. Kids have them. Whether it's obesity, whether it's diabetes, whether it's these other diseases, the kids have them now. When we talk about those are just diseases that and illnesses that the elder generation had. So. Okay. Good. Anything else? I'll stop here, inshallah. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wa salamun ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.